Hey guys, this is Mel. Welcome to my channel. This video is going to talk about Motherland Fort Salem, 2 episodes, because for me on ABC Spark, where I'm watching it, it had the 2-hour premiere due to a little technical issue last week. So that is episode 201, titled Of the Blood, which was supposed to premiere June 22nd, 2021. And then episode 202, titled Abomination, which premiered tonight, June 29th, 2021. So just want to say, huge spoiler alert. If you haven't seen either 2 episodes already, please go do so first and then come back and see what I have to say about the episodes. If you're brand new to my channel, just in general, this video is pretty much recorded the same night that I've watched the 2 episodes. So right now it's roughly a half hour after the 202 has ended for me. So you're getting my first genuine thoughts about the episodes. My first reactions, my real thoughts of me watching it only after the first time. So you get that like actual raw reaction from it without actually me doing a live reaction to it. Cause yeah, it'd be pretty boring if you actually saw me do a live react, because I don't talk during the actual scenes because I want to pay attention. So that's something right there as well. Also, just a reminder that any thoughts and opinions that I have about the show and what happens on it is strictly just my own. You can disagree with them, that's completely fine. But I just be respectful. But I am always looking forward to your thoughts about whether or not how you took the episodes. You can leave them in the comments down below. Maybe if I made an observation and you didn't catch it, let me know. Or if there's an observation I missed, please let me know about that too. Again, first time watching the episode, so I could miss a bunch of stuff and not realize it as well too. That has happened as well too. So that's something as well. Also, I just want to say, because of the mishap on ABC Sparks, I technically saw episode 3 before seeing episodes 1 and 2. So like, for some, I will say this, normally I know there would have been moments in these 2 episodes that would have surprised me, but because I saw episode 3 already and that recap they provided for, I already kind of knew what was meant to happen or be covered in these 2 episodes. So it kind of dialed back on like the shock factors and stuff like that. So just be a heads up like that. I will definitely try not to mention anything that is meant to be referenced in 203. But if you're suddenly wondering like, hey, why aren't you not surprised about this, or why did you not catch on to that, it's just like, keep in mind that I accidentally was given 203 instead of 201 last week. So just keep that in mind. So I'm gonna try to do this in 20 minutes, maybe 30. Usually I give myself 20 minutes, but also I'm also realizing as I did the template of like all my normal other recap videos, a lot of things, it's very hard to distinguish like very separate, like this show is very good at intermingling a lot of storylines together, so where it's to a point where it's like, oh, this is distinctly one, but then it's like, no, wait, that's connected. So just keep in mind I'm trying to weed it out in this one. But before we actually get into it, because it's been a while since season 1, let's do a little brief update of like, where did we actually leave all our characters. So first off, General Alder led our unit into an unexpected ambush against the Camarelli, the ancient enemy. That kind of reminds me of calamari, but it's not the word, but there's that. While doing so, Tally becomes a biddy when one of them actually die from the witch plague, that weird black veiny thing that was attacking them. Also, Raelle was pretty much got injured very badly, to the point that Abigail had to link them so that Raelle could continue fighting. But then they were left for dead by the unit, but this mysterious force protected the 2 of them and caused this explosion that made everybody think that they were dead. Meanwhile, Anacostia is following Scylla after she helped her escape, and Scylla returns to the spree only to be welcomed back by her leader, Willa, only then to realize that Willa is actually Raelle's mother, who everyone thinks has been dead all this time. So that is where we left off at the end of season 1. So for the video, I'm going to go into episode 2 and then go episode 1, then episode 2, because it's so heavily serialized, and like I experienced in watching 3 before 1 and 2, you're going to get confused if I jump between the 2. So we'll go episode 1 first and then go episode 2. One thing I did want to mention though is that I was very surprised when actually taking my notes that both episodes actually have a 6-act structure. if you don't know, if you're new to my channel, I just graduated from film school, training to be a screenwriter. And one thing that was really focused on was the fact that a lot of the drama, 1-hour dramas, usually follow the teaser and 5-act structure. So I was set on that. And then I was surprised to find out that not only was the premiere a teaser of 6 acts, but also episode 2 as well. So I'm going to have to really pay attention for the rest of the season to see if it actually continues with this structure, because that means more commercials for us, but it just means that there's more twists and turns throughout the episode kind of a thing. So just keep that in mind. I wanted to point that out. So there is that. But let's get right into episode 1. Pretty much timeline-wise. So since we left off pretty much with Alder and the remaining of her unit flying off in the helicopter, pretty much I'm basing the timeline on the fact that that group is still on a proper military transport heading back to Fort Salem. So if anything, it's maybe like a few hours or however long it actually takes for them to travel from one place to the other. That's how long it is between episode 110 and episode 201. Now, episode breakdowns. Like I mentioned before, it was very hard to completely separate the storylines, just like I've done in any of my other recap videos. So this is what I could pick up as the very distinctly different storylines. 1 being debriefing the blast. 2, which is the unexpected witches. And 3, which is Spree's new mission, or hunting the Camarilla. I really got to learn how to say that word. But storyline 101 pretty much, or storyline 1, which is debriefing the blast, is pretty much Raelle and Abigail's return to Fort Salem, finding out that they have this mysterious power going on. Do they actually debrief? Yeah, they actually tell Adler about the powers in this as well, I remember. Okay, so there's that. Then we also, before they actually return, Adler gives Biddy Tally, the rare offer to undo her role as a Biddy and return to life as normal. Tally was very set on continuing her life as a Biddy until she found out that Raelle and Abigail were still alive, and then she took her offer to revert back to her normal life. So that's kind of the parts I'm collecting for that, because that's pretty much all the repercussions that came from the ambush that we had in the finale episode. Storyline 2 is kind of something brand new for the season, is the Unexpected Witches. And this is the introduction of Penelope Silver, I believe her last name is, but she's the church singer who ended up melting the stained glass. And she's the daughter of the vice president, who I happen to remember as Coop on the original Charm. I think his name is Victor Weber, I think. Webster Weber, I don't know, but her father. And he was completely unaware that she had the blood in her. Completely unaware that his wife had it as well. Kind of trying to figure it out as well, but he also doesn't trust Adler. And he definitely has prejudice against the witches. So that kind of leaves it awkward for Penelope, who gets tested and is confirmed to be of the blood. Third storyline, though, which this one is actually separate from the other two, and this is dealing with the spree. So this is dealing mainly with Scylla returning to Willa, and then having Anacostia spying on them through her different magical tactics. And this is where Scylla finds out about the spree getting attacked by the Camarilla, the ancient enemy, and then how, like, their tactics have changed, how they weren't part of the attack on the Bellwether wedding, trying to figure out also why she kept away from Raelle all this time. So we do get a little bit more of, like, the spree side of things, so there's that. So the last moment of the episode is actually Tally waking up from one of Alder's memories in the jungle, where now Tally has these blisters on her stomach from this massive bug attack that was happening in the jungle memory. So it gets a little creepy there, but we'll get back to that later. Now, character-wise, though, we do get a lot of, we do get a few new characters. We also get a bit more about some returning characters as well. So we meet Penelope, who is the newest witch found, who is the church singer. her father, Vice President Landon, I believe. Landon Silver is his name, who lost his wife. Don't know how long ago she died, but there's that. We also find out in this episode that Scylla was burned from the military because Willa wanted her to do a personal mission to recruit Raelle. I don't know if that was mentioned before. Again, it's been a long time since I've seen season 1. We have Anacostia shedding a tear for Raelle and Abigail when everyone thought they were dead, and then also hugging a Biddy version of Tally, but then also celebrating them all together later on. We do have, I already mentioned the one-time offer. We do have Adil and his sister Khalida returning again. Khalida is ready to move on and try to find a new place for their people to call home, but Adil doesn't want to run anymore, so they're kind of butting heads from there. Khalida confides in Raelle when she returns her good luck charm that she thinks her brother is changing in some way. I don't know if it's more of like a supernatural change or if it's just more of like a growing up hormonal kind of a change, but there's that concern. Also, we have Abigail confessing that her connection to Adil is definitely different from all the other past intimate connections that she's had before. And then on a phone call with her own father, Raelle confirms that she and Scylla have broken up. So those are all the character tidbits. Now, on regular tidbits as a whole, we do find out that a biddy is not meant to share the experience of being a biddy to anybody, though Tally breaks that after the whole reversal ritual. And she ends up trying to explain it to Raelle and Abigail after they reunited, but it's an experience that's very hard to explain, she says. And I think I counted that there had to be 7 biddies attached to Adler. I wasn't sure. Maybe I missed one. But we also find out that the spree, the head operatives of the spree, at least half of them were assassinated a week ago from the events of 201 by the Camarilla. Also, we find out, I should have mentioned it because we were on Biddy Talk, was that according to Adler, it takes years of training and preparation for someone to become a biddy, and it's only if they have certain traits within them. So Tally taking on that role was very unexpected and very forceful. Like, she wasn't unprepared for it whatsoever. So that's something new that we got to learn. Most shocking moment of the episode, if I had not seen 203, I would probably say I was very surprised by how quickly this episode went through so many events. The fact that Raelle and Abigail pretty much returned to base at the start of Act 3. I wasn't expecting that. I thought it would have taken them a lot longer before they got that reunion bit. And then the fact that Tally was a biddy for a very short time. I mean, she, again, underwent that procedure in Act 3 as well. So those are 2 storylines where I thought it would have stretched out a lot more, where maybe for us we see them returning, but like in their characters' time, it might have been like a month or 2 or something, but that's not the case. I think it's only been a days since the girls are separated from each other. So I was actually surprised by that, because I definitely would have loved to have seen what Raelle and Abigail would have done out overseas with this new power and them trying to find their way back home. I would have loved to have seen Tally readjusting as being a biddy and learning what she can, but I guess they're kind of going to do that with the whole remnants of the connection thing happening. But I guess they wanted to get rid of having to put Tally through all that special effects makeup, or the prosthetics makeup and stuff like that. So I was the speed of which the events happened was the shock for me. But moving on to top 3 favorite moments, I will say, it was a lot harder to find just because of the fact that, like, things were already, like, pre-set up in, like, the recap of 203, so it's kind of like, can it be still my favorite, or maybe it's a big major one? I don't know. But when I really think about it, the reunion between Raelle, Abigail, and Tally definitely is a huge chunk, and I say it would be, like, I mean, like, both of them are all related to the 3 girls in general, so, like, the first chunk of my favorite is the fact that their reunion, their emotion to be reunited, how overwhelming they are. It's definitely a huge difference to how their dynamic was in the series premiere. So it's like, you definitely see how much they've gotten close to each other and how far they've come from each other. So just to have them all reunited again and like just so overwhelmed and by it. It was just like, it was really great to see. I think I almost shed a tear during that moment for the happiness that they had. But also to connect to that, I really liked Anacastia's reaction to it. Not only to the bad news of them losing Raelle and Abigail. I mean, I wasn't expecting her to shed a tear because like she's been always like hardcore and soldier, but I love that for them, she did. She couldn't hold back. And then for have her give comfort to Tally at that moment, and then to later on see her come back at the very end to give them good news that they're going to war college and to have them celebrate as if like she wasn't their commanding officer and she's just their friend. I really appreciate the dynamic the four of them have, and I'm hoping we see more of that as well. Even though, because if they're at war college, does that mean they still get to report back to Anacostia, or is Anacostia just strictly on like the basic training part of their time there? I don't know. That's a question. But moving on to top peeved moments. One thing was just Tally wasn't a biddy for long. I mean, like I said before, it was a shock that she pretty much looked like she's maybe like a biddy for like 2 or 3 days or something. But a peeve that connects to is that I don't really like the fact that Tally now has her loyalties renewed to Alder. When beforehand, before she became a biddy, she had her doubts and she was very, very, very hesitant about Adler. But now that she's been connected through being a biddy, it seems like now she's Team Adler all of a sudden. I know that contradicts with Raelle and kind of with Abigail, because Abigail's kind of like the in-between of like being completely for Adler, but then also not really trusting her well. Raelle's like, I don't trust Adler kind of a thing. So it's just like, it's just something, a small thing. And then the second peeve I would say is that it's not really peeve, it's just more of like, it really grossed me out. And it was just that whole bug attack in the jungle memory, how massive those bugs were. It's like, I don't blame Tally for reacting the way she did when she woke up. I was like, I'd be screaming my head off too if I thought those big of a massive bugs were crawling all over me. I just like been like digging into my skin. It's just like, no thanks. So it's a peeve because it's more of a grossed out moment. So there's that. But random questions, though. The one question I did have was that if Penelope was always a singer at church, why did it take that particular moment for her voice to cause the stained glass to melt the way it did? I would assume, like, if she's always been a singer, that means her voice is always projecting those sounds and to the level that she is. So it's like, why, when she's practicing, why did it not melt when she was practicing? Why wasn't there any interaction beforehand? Like, what made it that moment? Was it more of an age thing, more of a maturity thing? Like what? Because I would have thought, like, if it's the first time she was singing at all, like the very first time she was singing and hitting those high notes, and then that's why it happens, like, oh, then there's no way that she could have known. But it sounds like she's been like a part of the choir and like she's been doing this like for a really long time. So like I'm wondering, like, how would an incident like that not occur beforehand, you know? So there's that. So let's get right into episode 2. Okay, so timeline-wise, okay, first off, I'm a little confused because Isadora says that it's been days of testing with Raelle and Abigail since they returned with no results. So they've returned in 201, obviously, so it's been days. But then apparently it's been at least 1 week since the episode 201 between 202, because Scylla has been on her new mission to find out who this who's rallying up all these possible hate groups for the Camilleri. So that's 1 week. So I could understand the whole 1 week between episode 1 and 2. But then Anacostia says that she's been watching Scylla for weeks. But isn't it in episode 9 or 10 in season 1 that Anacostia had just allowed for Scylla to escape? It's not really matching up for me unless like I'm misremembering the spacing of days in season 1. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm kind of a little confused there when it comes to that timeline. Now, when it comes to the episode breakdown, I picked up on 3. First one being War College, which dealt more with the introduction of the new classes, some tutoring between Tally to Penelope. We're meeting new coven members. as well. We're meeting a little bit more of a different rules system for War College, so that's something that's touched upon in the first bit of the storyline. Second storyline is the finding the more in the mushroom power that's coming with the mycelium. This is the continued testing with Raelle and Abigail that Isadora finds, and then getting a sample of the decapitated head with all the mushrooms built on it, but then it's not really a dead head yet. It's like part of the mycelium now, and then finding out with testing that Raelle is actually the one that has the new power, not Abigail, due to Raelle having actually made physical contact with the mycelium, and that is that weird white misty thing on the wall that seems to have a presence of its own. So there's that. And the third storyline is still continuing with the Spree's new mission, and that is Scylla trying to go undercover to try to get into the potential hate group, but then having Anacostia kind of like backpacking off of her and trying to join in when they don't want to work with each other. So there is that. I know that was a very watered down version of the episode. By this point, while I was doing episode 1, I was getting to the point where like I couldn't remember what was learned in episode 1 and what was learned in episode 2. Like it's very recent for me watching the 2 episodes together, and the blurring of the lines that way is just something that's very serialized as this show. It's very easy to mix up which happened in which episode for the tiniest of details. So I apologize for that. But again, first time I'm actually taking notes and paying attention very deeply to Motherland Fort Salem. Otherwise, last season I was just fully engrossed in the episode and not even needing notes. So yeah, it's definitely a different viewing experience. But the last moments of the episode is Tally giving a tour to Penelope about their history. But while doing so, Tally comes across a photo that has one of either soldiers kind of like glimmering or fritzing out before they're actually erased from the photo. And Tally's realizing that this soldier must be the one who's been featured in the Jungle Memories, where others actually talking to this person. We don't know a name, but she's the one that came up with the whole using the jar thing to eliminate the sound kind of a thing. For me, I have a feeling she might be connected to the Spree if her tactics were meant to be something that the military does not use. So keep that in mind there. But let's move on to characters very quickly. This one is where we get a few more new characters introduced. We get the character of M, just the letter, as far as I know. And she is the new coven leader for Raelle, Abigail, and Tally at War College. We also get to meet Gregorio, who is Libba's ex, but also he was Abigail's, consort? Cavalier? Is that how they spell it? I don't know. He was supposed to be Abigail's date, but at her debutante. But there's a huge scandal over the fact that Libba kind of stole Gregorio from Abigail, but then only to find out in this episode that he and Libba were actually dating, and nobody knew about it. So then that's why it became a whole issue when he got assigned to be Abigail's date. So there's that. So we got a brief moment where he said that he was appreciative of the eulogy that Abigail gave at Libba's funeral. We also find out later, though, that Abigail just never clicked with Gregorio, even though the dates of the debutante balls at that usually do connect on an intimate level. It was just never there for her and Gregorio. So that's something interesting there. We also meet Channing, who is one of the teachers for their new class, specifically for learning the mother tongue language. We also have the major. I didn't catch the second half of her name, but she's the teacher that's meant to be teaching them about dangerous sounds and like how to recognize them and then locate the sources of them, was my understanding of what that class was. We actually do see them undergo an exercise of that sort, which is kind of like an escape room of the magical kind, essentially. Now, for all the characters we do know, for Adler, we find out that she feels very humbled when she's in the presence of the mycelium that's on the wall. We find out that she's at least 300 years old. I know that's been mentioned before, but that age is the reason why Vice Principal Silver doesn't trust her, because he believes that if someone's that old, they might have more of a disconnect with humanity, because they're like they think they're above it kind of a thing. We also find out that Penelope is actually staying on the War College side of the campus of Fort Salem until basic training starts. So she's a little bit away from all the other people like her. Or maybe it's just because no one is living on the basic training campus side, and they just put it there because the War College students are there. I don't know. But we also find out indirectly that she's having some issues with her father while she's at Fort Salem, kind of similar to what Tally had issues with her mom being against her being there. So that's something there. We also find out a little bit more from Willa, which is Rael's mom, that while she was a member of the military, every time she got deployed, her anger toward the military grew whenever she returned home and found that Rael was growing up more and more without her mother in her life. So she was angry of all the missing time that she would had with her daughter, and that kind of is one of the reasons why she turned away from the military. Don't know why it led her to go into the spree, but we'll have to find out about that later. We also find out from Atticostia confiding in Scylla about her own doubts about Adler and her motives in wanting to find other ways to complete the mission. And she's hoping it's not the spree, but she's willing to work with Scylla if there's a way to both stop the greater enemy between them. So there's that. With Adil, we find out that he has never spoken English and he never learned how to do so, and yet he can. And apparently that's all because of his knowledge of the mother tongue language since he was a baby. It's very interesting that you can learn just one language and be able to understand all the other ones after it. So that's pretty cool. And then with Tally, we find out that she can also see sound, which is something the Major found very interesting. Seems like it's something that it's not very heard of. But then again, Tally she always seemed to have that extra sight to her, where being able to sense where things are when everyone else couldn't really get that focus on. It's like having that inner eye focus thing she has. So it wasn't a surprise, but it was great to see that it's not. It's an extension of what she was able to do before. Now, tidbits in general, we do find out that every coven is named after a war goddess. We also find out that War College is now grouped with them having core courses that all three of the girls will share together, but then there's also the individual courses based on their speciality. We don't know what each of their speciality is going to be. So far, the Mother Tongue and the Dangerous Sounds courses, all three of them are present for that one. Also, we got to see with Dangerous Sound, though, there are certain sound frequencies that will pretty much cause a complete obedience over the witch. Like to the point where it's like mind control, which is kind of scary. So that's something there. Now, most shocking moment of the episode, and I can gladly say that this was not influenced by episode 203, was the fact that we got that mushroom head, that decapitated mushroom head, was actually alive of some sort, and like it pretty much acted as a mouthpiece for Rael. And like I wasn't expecting that, and I was just like, wait, what? And it's like that was also kind of cool, but it's also like you're about to like out yourself on being the one that's connected to the mycelium. So it was unexpected for sure. I'm just glad nothing oozed out of it. That was one of the things I didn't want to see happening. So there's that. So let's move on to top favorite moments. First one, again, the closeness between Rael, Abigail, and Tally. I love their sisterhood. I love seeing them work together. It's also very heartbreaking when like one of them is like feeling resentment towards the other, which you can kind of see a little bit happening with Abigail after finding out that she's not connected in any way to this new power that is emanating from Rael, like she thought she was. So I'm hoping that doesn't cause a further rift between the two of them, because they come so far from where they were in the first episode, in the very first episode. The next two favorites, you might think it's weird, but the second favorite I had was the fact that we got an introduction to all these different classes. Yes, they're school classes, or like they're classes, but what I love about it is the fact that it's allowing for us to expand on the world a little bit more, where it allows for us to learn a little bit more about this witch culture, which I'm super excited about because it's very extensive. This is very brand new. It's one of the reasons why I like the show, is because this is a brand new take on a supernatural element that I really like seeing, and there's only so much where you can see witches being portrayed in a certain way. So I really appreciate how different this is. So the fact that we get to actually see our three characters actually learning about different elements of it through their classes, I'm all for it. also just because it's a huge opposite from Legacies, where I'm still wondering who are all the students' teachers at the boarding school, and I'm still waiting. So there's that. That was a bit of a sidebar. But the third favorite I did have, again, many people might not agree, but I like that we got a little bit more about the spree and a little bit more of like working on what their motives are. I'm still trying to figure out, like, to see it from like all the people reacting to like all the victims of the spree and trying and seeing their hatred. Like, okay, now their hatred is more towards witches, but now I'm still trying to figure, okay, so what caused this war between the military and the spree? And now that we're seeing a little bit more of the spree through Willa and her, and how she pretty much diverged away from the military, and seeing like, oh, maybe that's what caused the divide. So I'm very interested to see, because, yeah, I'm very interested to see what drives the spree, because I'm still trying to, because, again, it's not black and white, but, like, I'm trying to figure out, like, why, like, I'm still trying to figure out if their whole vendetta for the spree is against the military, why would they keep targeting humans? Like, that's the thing with me. It's like, if the war is between the witches of the military and the witches of the spree, you would assume that all the victims would just be witches. But the spree have targeted humans. So it's like, I'm kind of wondering why that is. Is that just because they target humans to kind of put more of the bad light on the military witches? Or like what? Like are they trying to incite a bigger war with the humans versus the witches as a whole? Like, I don't know. So I'm really interested to see a little bit more about the other side's backstory and like what they're trying to work towards, so I could figure out just where it is our characters would lie when it came down to picking sides. Because I feel like at one point, all three of them are gonna have to pick a side. I think, yeah. When it comes to peeved moments, I can't really think of a peeve, which I'm glad for. I mean, like, yeah, I get mad at Isadora, like, pretty much locking up Raelle and Abigail in these tanks and pretty much suffocating them just to prove whether or not they both have that mycelium power or not. I could get annoyed by that, like Raelle did. But, like, I get why it was needed, because, like, you needed to put them in a dangerous situation to allow for that protective power to kick in. So it's not really a peeve there, but I mean, as a character, it would be a peeve, for sure, but not as a viewer, because I understand that. Yeah. I guess the only peeve, I really have to pick one, is maybe Kalita trying to, like, she's trying to put a wedge between Abigail and Adil, saying that, like, there would never be a future because they would always pick their own people before each other. Now, I'm wondering if they're just trying to start off a star-crossed lovers kind of a thing going on between them, so I don't know. We'll have to wait and see about that. Random questions, though. First one, I'm wondering why Gregorio is at War College at Fort Salem, because isn't there another base where all the other male witches are under the guidance of the Witch Father? Like, we got introduced to them in Beltane. So, like I don't mind him being at War College. Like, no, of course. Like, if we got it to be co-ed, sure. But I'm wondering, though, like, if it wasn't co-ed in season 1, why is it all of a sudden co-ed for just Gregorio? Like, there's no other men around except for Adil, but he's not he's visiting. And then maybe Channing as the one teacher, right? So it's like, I'm kind of wondering, like, well, where are all the other guys that we met in the first season then? Right? Like, when does War College, is it like a co-ed thing, or is it just strictly meant for all girls and then there's all guys in one? I don't know. Like, I'm a little confused by that. Or is it just a temporary thing until he gets transferred over, which I don't think, because his dynamic with Abigail is definitely going to be a little bit interesting. I feel like an enemies to lovers thing potentially happening between them. I don't know. Maybe. I hope not, because I do like her with Adil. But anyways, there's that. Another question. Is there no question as to why Anacostia is not on the Fort Salem campus when she's undercover with Scylla? Or, like I said before, is basic training pretty much on a little break, and because she's solely meant for basic training and being in that group of students, then she's able to go off campus for her own missions? Or are they just treating her as if, like, she's away on a mission? Like, I definitely don't want to lose out Anacosta having her scenes with Raelle, Abigail, and Tally. I love the quartet that they have. But, like, what's going on? So there's that. But let's move on to predictions very quickly. I'm noticing the time right now. Kind of knew I might go over, but let's hope I don't go over the maximum one. But predictions. So again, I've already seen episode 3 because of the mistake last week. But the promo shows the Camalera having a way to test out who witches are due to sound frequencies. We see Abigail making a storm when she's not supposed to. We have Raelle's continued testing with the mycelium going wrong, or going badly for her. Now, based on the synopsis for 203, we have Raelle prepares to show her ability to the top brass, while Abigail struggles with her new role. Tally begins to question her unsettling dreams. Anacosta and Scylla form a plan to infiltrate the enemy further. Okay, I'm not going to say what I do remember from watching the episode last week, but I will say that I'm going to have to rewatch it for me to do an actual video recap for it. Because I feel like there's a lot of things I overmissed because I just didn't know what things were referring to, especially without seeing episode 1 and 2. So you have to check back and see for that. But I won't give any much more of it, but it's definitely something of an episode now that I'm trying to rethink what happened and trying to fill in the blanks now, thanks to tonight's 2 episodes. So yeah, so that'd be cool. But what did you guys think of the episodes? What did you guys like about it? What do you think will happen next? Let me know in the comments down below. Love to hear your own thoughts, theories, and opinions about what you think will happen next. Also, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and check my other videos if you've done so already. If you have any suggestions, because this is the first video of a new series for me, I mean, it's pretty much almost the same format as I do for my other videos, but it's definitely a little more scattered because, again, this is the first time I'm actually talking about Motherland Fort Salem. So I'm trying to figure out, like, what best way to do it. So if any suggestions, please let me know as well in the comments down below. So that is pretty much it. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, check my other videos if you haven't done so already. Also, if there's any other shows that I do cover, you can check out those videos there. If you want, check out my Tumblr page. Link for that is down below. I reblog promos, web clips, quotes, GIFs, synopses, news, all the good stuff, all found in one place. It's also connected to WordPress. Anything I post online is connected to WordPress. A little more organized, a little more detailed, but still a work in progress as well. I don't have much on Motherland Fort Salem for both those sites, but in case if you're a fan of any of my other stuff that I cover, you can check those out there. Otherwise, guys, I'm going to leave it there. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for your patience. I will be coming back next week to see what I have to say about round 2 of episode 3 for me. But until then, guys, this is Mel. Wish you all a great day, great week, wherever you are. Stay safe. And I need water. So I'm going to catch you guys later. Bye for now.